Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. This is the second video in a series of 3 videos that will deal with some of the concepts covered in Unit 2 of Level 1A of the Accessible Arabic Program. In the previous video and activities, we looked at the correlation between Arabic letters and English letters in the Handsworth Dictionary. In this lesson, we'll be looking at the correlation between Arabic vowels and English vowels in the Handsworth Dictionary. Now, the first thing you'll notice if you look in the Handsworth Dictionary and pay attention to it is that there are no vowels written on the Arabic words in the Handsworth Dictionary. Now, that can be very, very troubling because it's like, well, how am I supposed to recognize the word when I see it without any marks on it? Well, what they've done is, again, I don't know if this is because the typewriters didn't have the ability to make those marks, or that it would have been too tedious, or they feared making too many errors. But they set up a pretty consistent English system by which to make it very clear what the vowels are on the Arabic word. So we want to look at that system today and hopefully be able to complete some of the activities in our book based upon what we understand from the activity. So without further ado. So to find words in the Handsworth Dictionary, you will need to be familiar with how Arabic letters and vowels, that's what we're going to be looking at today, is the vowels, how they're represented in Handsworth Dictionary English transliteration. Okay, so the first thing is to know the vowels and symbols themselves. So fatha, this symbol here, is represented by the letter A. When you see the letter A, that means that there is a fatha on the letter that comes before it. Kesra is represented by the letter I. When you see the letter I, that means there's a kesra on the letter that precedes it. Dhamma is represented by the letter U. If you see the letter U, that means there's a dhamma on the letter that precedes it. Sukun, which is the absence of a vowel diacritic, is represented by absolutely positively nothing. Because there's no vowel there, then you will just see 2 consonants together. Okay, so A, I, and U are the 3 vowels that we use. No use of E, no use of O. Okay, so because of that, sukun is represented by the absence of a vowel. So if you see N, B together, that means there's a noon followed by a ba, and the noon doesn't have any vowel on it. The last thing is shadda. We talked about that a little bit last time, and we said that shadda is the only time where we will see a doubled consonant. There are no double consonants in the Handsworth Dictionary except for the shadda. In all other instances, each Arabic letter is represented only by one English letter. Okay, so DD would be a double dal or a doubled bod. KK would be a doubled kaf, or even a doubled kha. If you looked in your dictionary, you did the previous exercise, you'll see that kha is represented by K. JJ is representative of a doubled jim. RR is a representation of the doubled ra. Okay. So now we want to look at some actual physical examples. Okay, so we'll bring up our key here. Okay, so we see dars. So when we're looking for this word, how do we know what's on here? Well, we have a D. D represents the dal. Then we have an A. The A means there's a fatha on the dal. Remember, the A represents the vowel for the letter that comes before it. Ra, and then sa. We have an R and then S. Now notice, between R and S, there's no vowel. What does that mean? That means there's a sukun. There's a sukun on the ra, okay? Because there's no vowel there, okay? So if we were looking for the representation in Arabic, this is what it would look like. Okay, now no end diacritics are used, so it's not going to say darsun, even though that's the standard ending. Why? Because the ending is based upon syntax. or I guess I can say it incorrectly. It's based upon grammar. So whatever grammatical position it has, whether it's the mubtada or the khabar, the subject or the predicate, or the ism majroor, the object of the preposition, whatever, it's going to have a different end vowel. That's how we know what its function is in the sentence. So because of that, they didn't put the end vowel. But we know that in ism, if anything is an ism, it automatically is going to end with two dhammas unless we have a good reason otherwise. Okay, so our next word says mamar. Okay, mamar. So using our key here, we know that the meme has a fatha on it. Why? Because we see M-A. And then that's another meme there. Okay, and that meme also has a fatha. And then we know the ra has a shadda. How do we know that? Because there are two R's. So the word is mamar. So in Arabic, this is what the word would look like. Okay, so I begin with the root. Yeah, meme, ra. Remember, you'll recall that when we're looking for the root of this, we have meme, ra, ra. Remember, the shadda is two. So with meme, ra, ra, which of these would be extra? Well, you're going to find out in Unit 2 that meme is one of those letters that can be extra as well, along with Aleph. Along with Aleph, meme can be extra as well. Okay, so here's our next word, adhbun, adhbun. Okay, so here's our key. So this is an ayn. So remember, the ayn is represented by the comma facing to the right. And we know that the ayn has a fatha. Why? Because it's followed by the letter A. And then the D represents the val here. And then B represents the ba. We know that there is no vowel on the val. There is a sukoon on the val. Why? Because there's no vowel in between them. And so this is our word here in Arabic, adhbun, meaning sweet or pleasant, especially when you talk about water. This term is used for water or used as a description of water often in the Quran. Here's a nice long one, mustamir. So we know that on the meme is a dhamma because of the U. Then we have the sin followed by the ta. We see the S and then the T. There's no vowel in between them. So we know that on the sin is a sukoon. Then we have the ta with a after it. So that means the ta has a fatha, musta. And then the meme here, the ma, has a kesra. How do we know that? Because of the I. And then there are two R's there. So we know that there's a shadda on the ra. Okay, and also dhamma is at the end naturally. So this is what our word would look like. Okay, so again, when we're talking about this process, you can do the inverse. So you're looking for the Arabic word. So you're going to want to say, okay, meme dhamma, that's M-U. And this is what's explained in your book. And then S, sin sukoon. So that's going to be S, nothing. Ta fatha, so T-A, so M-U-S-T-A. Ma kesra, so M-I. Ra shadda, R-R. You could do the process in reverse. Okay, so here's our next word, ta'adhur, ta'adhur. So we see T-A, that means there's a fatha on the ta. We see the forget what this accent is called. What is it called? An apostrophe. Good. We see the apostrophe facing to the right, which means that represents the ayn, followed by an A. So there's a fatha on the ayn. Then we see two D's. The two D's represent the val, but there are two vowels. So there's a shad up here. Then there's a U, which means there's a dhamma on top. There's a dhamma on top, right? And then the ra. And the ra is going to have two dhammas, even though we don't see it because that's how an ism ends. Okay, so that's our word, ta'adhur, ta'adhur. Okay, so to find words in the Hands Word Dictionary, we've looked at the key vowels, A for fatha, I for kesra, U for dhamma, and doubled consonants for shadda. Is that all we have to deal with? Of course not. That would be too easy for you. Okay, so we also have the concept of elongation. Okay, now for elongating the kesra, we said kesra is represented by I. Okay, if we add the Y, we elongate it becomes E. Okay, that's represented by I with the addition of that little line on top. That line on top is called a macron. It's called a macron. So you add the macron on top of the I. If you see the macron on top of the I, that means that the ya is being used not as its own letter, but to elongate. Okay. We have dhamma. Dhamma is equal to the U. The dhamma is elongated by wow. Okay. So if you see a U, yeah, or a dhamma that's been elongated, you'll see that with U and a macron. The macron is used to show elongation. For fatha, fatha is elongated with aleph. If you see fatha that's elongated with aleph, that'll be represented by A with a macron. Okay. The last thing we have is that sometimes a word will end with ta. The ta that you see down there. That ta is called ta marbuta, the tied up ta. Okay. Now this ta doesn't really make a ta sound. It makes more of a ha sound. So I would say, for example, talibah. Talibah. So you can hear that ha sound at the end, but it's not a very strong ha sound. If I said talibah, you really wouldn't hear that much of a difference unless you were paying real close attention. And so it sounds like I'm ending it with A. Now, none of the isms that we looked at previously, and I'll let you go back and do the video, look at the words that we've taken in the video, none of them end with a vowel. Okay, and that's important. An ism, when you see an ism, it's not going to end with a vowel unless the ending in general, we'll say that's 95% of the time. It's not going to end with a vowel. The words that end with vowels are verbs. A verb ends with a vowel, usually an A in the Hansword Dictionary. Okay, so when you see a word that comes after the verbs end with a vowel, then that means there's a ta marbuta. So when you see that ta at the end, then and you see the letter A, the A represents the ta at the end. It's as if you're saying at the end, but there's no real way to represent that H sound clearly. So they just leave it as an A. You'll see what I'm talking about, inshallah. And if not, you can watch the video a few times. And if you need some extra practice with that, you can ask your teacher in class. Okay, so here's our first word here is madrasa. Madrasa. Okay, so you'll see that madrasa ends with that ta that we were just talking about. So here's our key. All right, our new key. So from madrasa, we see M-A, so we know there's a fatha on the meme. We see D-R, dal, ra. We see the D-R. There's no vowel in between that, so we know there's a sukoon on the dal. A sukoon on the dal. The ra is followed by an A that has a fatha. And then S is followed by an A, which means the sa also has a fatha. Okay? Because we see the A at the end, we know that that A really represents the ta marbuta, because you end up saying madrasa, yeah, with that little ha, that little weak ha at the end. Okay, and that's what that A represents. Okay, so this is what the word looks like with the Arabic diacritics. Here's our next word, which is marra. Marra. Okay, so we have M-A. M-A means the meme here, or the ma, has a fatha. Then we have R. There's two R's here, so we know there's a shadda on the ra, and then that's followed by an A. So we know there's a fatha on that. And then because it ends with A, we know that it ends with the ta marbuta. There's nothing else for us to do. This is what the word would look like in Arabic. Okay, so it still has that tune ending, but because that can change, then we don't represent that ending in the dictionary. Okay, our next word is fakhar. Our next word is fakhar. You can see here that the kha, even though in many books is represented by KH, it's represented by the simple K here. Okay, so we see fa with an A, that's a fatha. We see the doubled K, that means there's a shadda on the kha. Okay, and then we see an A, that means there's a fatha on top. And then we see the macron. That's why that aleph is there. We don't have to add anything. That aleph there means that that fatha is being elongated. Yeah, and then it ends with ra. Okay, No A at the end because there's no ta marbuta. Okay? So that's our word there. Mantuq. These are the types of words you're going to be looking at in Unit 2. The different forms. Yeah. The ma, the meme, and the wow are extra. Those are two other extra words that you'll be, extra letters you'll be taking. Okay? So, vowel elongation, same rules that we have here. So, this is going to be the MA means the meme has a fatha. NT, the N is for the noon, the T is for the tha. So that means because there's no vowel in between them, the noon has a sukoon. The T is followed by a U. So we're going to put a dhamma on that. We see a makron on the U. That's why that wow is there, elongating it. And then it ends with the Q. The Q stands for the qaf. Okay? So we have mantuq. So this is what it would look like in Arabic. There would be a sukoon on the wow, but when it's done for elongation, that's not often written. Okay? Now, if you looked at this one, okay, if you just looked at it, you might think that that wow is being used for elongation. It looks like manoob, but we see that that's not actually the case when we look at the English transliteration. And so we see MU, that means the meme has a dhamma. Then we see NA, that means the noon has the na has a fatha. Then we see W doubled. So that means the W, the wow has a shadda. And then we see I, so that means the wow also has a kesra, shadda and a kesra. And then we have the B for ba. So this is munawwib. Again, if you looked at this, you might see manoob, but that's not manoob. How do we know? Because we looked at the English transliteration. It's important so that you can find the word you're looking for. So this is what our word is, munawwib, not manoob. Our next word is fakhur. Fakhur. Okay, and you can see fakhir here as well. You know, check some of the other ones out. All right, so how do we write that? The fa, represented by F, has an A. That means there's a fatha up here. The K, there's no shadda on it, so there's just one. It's followed by the U. So we're going to put a dhamma on that. We see the makron on top of the U. That means this wow here is being used for elongation. And that's followed by the R, okay, for the ra. And so this is what our word looks like. Okay, so what you can try out, this is on page 37 of your course book. Try to see if you can match up the English representations on the left with the Arabic representations on the right. So you'll look at the vowels and see if you can match the Arabic words with the English words. So we'll do the first one together. I won't be able to type, but we'll do it together. So this says jinhun. So we see J for the ja or the jim. Kesra would be an I. And then we would follow that by the noon, the na, that's an N. Sukoon's on top, so there's no vowel, and then an H. So J-I-N-H. Nope, 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 nope. There it is. So for next to E, you're going to put number 1. Next to E, you're going to put number 1. These two go together, okay? So I want you to go ahead and try to do the rest of those for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See if you can match those up. Thank you very much for tuning in. Remember, if there's anything that's confusing, you have questions, you're more than welcome to ask in Google Classroom using the stream, or you can wait till you come to class and ask more specific questions or more personal questions if you're embarrassed to ask publicly. Thank you very much for tuning in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.